Join us for a look at two of the biggest fatties from Lord of the Rings.
Spiky bits.
The Mawwalk of Harad is an iconic piece for sure from the Lord of the Rings movies and, of course, books. It is a ginormous model that's been around for over 15 years. This was kind of a technological marvel for Games Workshop at the time when it came out, and it still holds true. It has aged very, very well in the lineup. You can see here it's 5 big sprues. Included also is the larger base right here, as well as 2 halves, 2 kind of clamshell halves, and lots of crew in the howdahs and all sorts of things. Here's a better look at it put together. So it's got that like kind of triple decker kind of feel to it. Then all of the tusks for goring things, and you can hit up a 360 kind of design there. It's $100 US. I want to say it was $90 before the re-release of the Middle Earth strategy battle game, but I can't say for sure. I know it was definitely up there around $100 for sure. It's $100 now, US dollars. And, you know, it's going to come with 12 warriors, 6 with bows, 6 with spears, and 1 of the Mawwalk champion. It does have options in the new book that you can check out as well. But for the most part, I mean, this is a very, very big kit and definitely the pinnacle of any Lord of the Rings collection, regardless if you play the bad guys or not. So here it is in box, the brand new design, the blue update for 2018. The whole Middle Earth strategy battle game. You can see it definitely clues you in on what's in the box and all those sort of things. So we're going to open it up and boom. There she blows. So you've got the 2 halves like we saw. And like we'll take a closer look at these. Slaughter bases for all the mans, the howdah sprues, and then the howdah itself is a separate piece that's cast injection molding. Now, like I said, this thing's almost 15 years old. I actually thought it was older than this. 2004. Remember, the game came out about 3 years earlier than that, and they worked their way up to plastics. They did so well with the game, worked their way up to plastics. I think they actually recast the Balrog in plastic. It was pewter at first. If you have one of the pewter ones, I believe it is a very, very early one. And here you can see they got the elephant head, ears, tusks, and you actually can you don't have to glue the tusks in. You can magnetize them if you're worried about transport or something like that, but you don't have to glue them in. I've seen folks that don't glue them in. Base, the warriors, and more of the howdah right there, and I'm sure some very simple instructions here on how to put it all together. So as far as instructions go, this is actually pretty simple, believe it or not. Left and right half go together, tail goes on the back. Front, like I said, you don't have to glue those in. You can magnetize them because you'll have the sockets and things if you're worried about storage space. Or hell, you could even just magnetize the head itself if you really, really wanted to. How it all goes together. The big thing here is going to be kind of trimming the flash down, and then you make the triple stack right there. Now, as far as the models themselves go, they are pretty easy to put together because they're just kind of like left and right halves. And you just throw some weapons on them in most cases and throw them on the slaughter base. So pretty easy game, easy life right there. Now, as far as the 2 halves go, they, like I said, these have aged very well for being, you know, nearly 15 years old. Just really good looking detail. And this is all done by hand by I think the Perry brothers, if I remember correctly. Let's get some better light in there on it. But yeah, they definitely socket well together. Now, there are going to be a lot of left and right half components here when you're working on the kit, if you do pick up the Mawwalk of Harad. But have no fear, a little Vallejo plastic putty will get it done for you. If you got some gaps, you can just kind of slather it all in there with this applicator tip, and then what it's going to do is give you that depth and that penetration that you're going to need, and just come through with a seam scraper or a knife and just kind of scrape it all off right there. For the most part, it looks like it's ready to go. Not a whole lot of mold lines and stuff, maybe a few right there or something on the undercuts, and then you're going to put the left and right halves on right there that you can see. Here is the elephant head, or the Mawwalk head, and then those back halves of the legs right there, and they're all labeled R1, R2, etc., etc. The howdah, again, very well detailed. Look at all that kind of wicker detailing It's just good looking stuff, and I even like how they did underneath it, because that flat spot is where you mount it, right? Ah! The flat spot is where you mount it, so there's going to be an undercut, you know, on the tabletop. And then here's the sprue, and this, like I said, there might be a little bit of flash on here, but it's not too bad for the most part. Looking at the sprue, you know, which is kind of, like I said, really revolutionary for back in the day, for them to get this stuff done and get it on into plastic, and now even to have it, you know, looking this good this many years later. Here's your crew. Like I said, just kind of punch them out. A couple of them you have to put the arms on. Very easy stuff there with the slaughter bases. There's the chieftain. He's actually an option, or the handler is actually an option. And that reminds me, I can't wait for the Rancor to come out for Star Wars Legion. That would be dope. And there's the rest of the Howdah in the front pieces, and to the top of the stack right there, and a couple of little war banners. I mean, I've seen people string grappler lines, you know, from this, and going from each of the spires down to the outward halves of it. But I'll tell you what, my favorite thing is the base. Like having all these trampled Rohirrim on the base right here, or maybe they're Gondor. Nah, it looks like they're Rohirrim. Or, nah, there is a Gondor dude right there. So a couple of different variants of people here. Great looking base, just incredible stuff. And of course, you know, Mawwalk goes here. Point at enemy. Oh man, I love this model. Can't wait to see this particular little guy here put together. And I mean, it's just a hobbyist dream right here. Such an iconic piece of Lord of the Rings history, of The Hobbit, of Tolkien in general. Just a very cool thing here. Let's check out his rules next and move on to maybe perhaps the most iconic critter from Middle-earth. As far as rules go, well, we've got the brand new Middle-earth strategy battle game, the Armies book. The rule book will come in the Battle for Pelennor Fields. So this book you'll actually have to pick up for all the units themselves. And back in this area is the Mawwalk of Harad. So he's 275 points, and you can see all the options here. You can get a higher defensive value with the gnarled hide, which seems like it might be a good idea. You can get a Beastmaster. He has a bunch of special rules, awesome presence, trample, terror. All of these things seem pretty good for the game. I haven't played the new one yet, but just looking at it here, a lot of similar mechanics to what I'm used to with the older games here. Within 3 of model may roll, making a dual roll, cumulative. So yep, tusk weapons, inflict 4 strength 9 hits with it tramples rather than 3. I don't know a whole lot about strength 9. Seems pretty good. I'm just kind of looking at it here. Heroic March, I remember that. Yep, so pretty beefy here as far as that guy goes. Points wise, I'm gonna flip through this, and we're actually gonna talk about another big critter in the Middle-earth here next. The Balrog, also known as Durin's Bane, because, well, he pretty much killed all the dwarves that went in Moria, including their king Durin. Well, is a yet another timeless kit. It's on basically a 60mm base from back in the day. This was one of the models that Games Workshop went back, I believe, and redid in plastic. If I recall correctly, and my memory isn't quite what it used to be, and 18 years ago was a hell of a drug. But it was a long time ago. I can't remember. But I'm pretty sure it came in pewter first, and then they switched it over to plastic and sold a whole bunch of these bad guys. Same deal with the Nazguls. Those were metal at first. You can see here, it's a very cool looking figure. True to the movie, of course. You know, in that duel with Gandalf there, you can see him. Don't want to be on the receiving end of that breath attack right there. And there's another look at him. He's, as far as parts go, he's pretty simple. It's just like the body, and it's kind of deceptive how he goes together. Now, we don't have one in box. We have the one I actually put together 12, 13 years ago. So it's a little bit weird how it goes here. There's the horns here, and then he's got like the face, and then that goes on to here, and then there's like the lower jaw makes the head, and he's got arm options. You can do the flaming sword, you can do the flaming whip, depending on what you want to do, and then there's little flaming bits that peg into right here, which you're about to see as I show you this. And then of course The wings that you've probably seen but weren't really sure what they came from, those are Balrog wings. They're ginormous, and they work well for just about everything. We used to order those in bits way back in the day for all of our Hive Tyrant and Demon Prince conversions. They saw a lot of work outside of just the Lord of the Rings kit. Right there's the flaming sword bit right there. So currently $60 at Games Workshop site. I can't say how much, I don't recall how much he used to be back in the day, but I imagine he was around that same price, judging by, you know, it's right about that same Demon Prince kind of style and pricing when it comes to that. Let's take a look at the model, the actual model today. Okay, and here he is. So as you can tell, kind of a larger miniature when it comes to that. Now, he's not fully assembled. I never actually fully assembled him back in the day because I wasn't sure if I was going to use some of the parts for different conversions and such. But I mean, as far as assembly goes, there isn't a whole lot of flash, maybe on like the tail and stuff that you have to trim off, and some of the parts where you cut it off of the sprues itself. You see there's a flash line right there. It just kind of sockets together, you know. You may, depending on what glue you use, you'll have some gapping right there. So, of course, you can use that Vallejo plastic putty that I was telling you about. But for transport, maybe you just want to keep it like that, you know, so you can, because this is actually pretty big. This is about 9 inches or so right here. And then once you get it together, it's going to take up a pretty big footprint on the tabletop as well. Once you, or in your foam storage bag, you know, you're looking at about the size of a Tyranid Hive Tyrant overall right there. And then you've got different options for the arm, which also slots right in. You could, I suppose, maybe magnetize that, but and then once you pick an arm option right here, it just, you know, slots right in. Which you also could magnetize as well, but there might be a little bit of a gap right there, just kind of depending on what you want. So a kind of a little bit of an awkward model size-wise to store and such. But again, you know, like I said, these are the creme de la creme, the top of the food chain when it comes to Lord of the Rings itself. So you're probably going to have some sort of a solution already in place if your Lord of the Rings stuff is already kind of this big there. And then here is the 3-part head that I was talking about. You got the face and then the lower jaw right there. And then these are the pieces that actually go in the base right there to simulate flame. Again, you're going to have to kind of seal it to the bottom here to prevent gapping. Or if you want, you can just equip it this way as well, with all sorts of little coal embers and things on his arm. It looks like a treat really to paint as far as the design and styling. And again, this is an older miniature. This is 2006 they made this, and it still holds up today. I feel like very well. Now size wise, let's show you, I don't know, what do I got here? Let's see, what do we got size-wise? Oh, well, we could go with a Demon Prince. How about that? So here's a comparable, well, this is actually a Raging Heroes, I think, Demon Prince. But you can kind of get the idea there. Do we have anything 40K, actual 40K? No. Well, we got a Rhino. Here we go. Here's a Rhino. This is how big it is. So he is pretty big. Like I said, Demon Prince size, Hive Tyrant size, whichever comparison you prefer there. And as far as models, well, here is about, there you go. And that's about how big it is. So a very big and beefy fatty for the Middle-earth strategy game. Now back in stores and of course Games Workshop's website as well for 2018. So if you like these type of unboxings and reviews of Lord of the Rings stuff, please let us know, because I'm not sure we're gonna keep doing them. We just happen to have this stuff, so I thought we would. Actually, my girlfriend made me do it. She really likes Lord of the Rings. I figured we would get this out and see how it does for everybody there. So that's it for this one. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications to be the very first to like and comment on all our videos.
Spiking bits.